Welcome to the Idea to Value podcast, where in every episode we highlight the latest insights into creativity and innovation from experts around the world. I'm your host, Nick Skillicorn. I care about the evidence behind what makes ideas happen, and I've already helped thousands of people just like you through my unique insights into recent scientific findings of how creativity works. I also show you how to turbocharge innovation programs so they finally deliver on the value and ideas you've been struggling to execute. Get your free training on how creativity can be improved by registering now at www.ideatovalue.com. Now let's get on with today's episode. Hello everyone and welcome to another podcast episode at the Idea to Value podcast. Very happy to have Trevor Crane with us today. Trevor is a multiple time, in fact 10-time bestseller. He is the founder of Epic Author Publishing, and today we're going to be talking about getting your book done and published. Trevor, it's very happy to have you here.
I am happier to be here, I think. This is one of my favorite things to do, is to be asked questions and be able to tell you what all the cool stuff that I believe in. How about that?
Perfect. So today is all about being an author and getting your book published. And we're going to be talking about people who've probably had the dream of publishing a book their whole life, and maybe also some people who've not even considered publishing a book and why it might be right for them. So before we get started, can you just give us a very, very quick background as to what you do and how you got to this stage in your life?
So I guess my story would start with more of all my challenges and failures instead of all those cool successes, because I published 10 best-selling books now. My daughter is 9, and I have props for today. Now she's 10 years old. I apologize, and she's written 9 number 1 best-selling books. So that sounds like I'm super awesome guy, which is great, but I struggled for over 20 years to publish my first book. Struggled is a light term. The better, actually more accurate phrase is I failed. I thought I was writing my books. I had a great idea, and then I started putting time into it and journaling or writing my book, and I rolled up my sleeves and did the hard work, and year after year, it didn't happen. There are a million reasons why, but I was confused. I didn't have clarity. I started to doubt myself. I wasn't sure anybody would want to care about my message. I didn't know how to publish it. I started to get confused about, one of my books was going to be about a poem that was really important to me, and it was important to me because during a time in my life when I filed a $2.2 million bankruptcy, and I lost my houses, and I lost my cars, and the woman I was in love with left me, took our 2-year-old daughter, and left the state. I didn't think anybody'd ever want to listen to me ever again. So, I mean, why would I write a book when I'm at my worst? And then when I got successful at different times in my life, how could I distract all the time it's going to take to write a book and get it done and then market it and promote it and publish it and all that? I was busy and I was successful and I didn't have time. And so all of those excuses I've now moved past, and I help my clients do that all of the time. We can talk about some of those strategies, but the core thing is that I found, as much as creative people are phenomenal, and a book is not all that complex. It's words on a page, and most of us can type, or at least I can do it a little bit. You saw me before we started recording. I'm like, and I could get it done. The number one core thing is get some help. And I didn't finally publish my book until I hired a friend of mine who had published books, but he had published his first book when he was going through cancer. And he was going through chemo treatments, and his hair was falling out, and he was feeling the regret of not having published his book for his wife, his son, and then his audience, the people that he already knew and cared about. And he was like, what did I do? And the urgency wasn't created until he thought he might not get out of that bed. And in the hour of energy, when he wasn't vomiting into a bucket and his hair falling out, where he had any kind of clarity, he picked up his phone and he spoke his story into a phone. And so all of the arguments of analyzation of why, were gone. And instead, he took that time and energy, he got it done. That book was transcribed and turned into that story was turned into his first book. It became a best-selling book. It made him 7 figures behind the book He subsequently had a full recovery. He's published multiple books now, and he was one of the first mentors I had because he wasn't just great at getting it done himself. He helped hundreds and then thousands of people publish their books. And I was like, man, my excuses seemed kind of thin compared to his. And so I would just, that's kind of my background, and why my core one thing I always share with people is get some help. If you're going to build an amazing house, you're probably not going to do it all yourself. And if you're going to build an amazing book, even J.K. Rowling and Stephen King and James Patterson and every great book you've ever read or you love was not created alone. The whole idea of I did it myself. I am the success because I am so awesome and I self-published my book or wrote my own book. It's malarkey, it's baloney, and if you're going to create something phenomenal, it typically takes a team of people. And the first thing to do is to just acknowledge it. It's an abundant mindset to say, you know what? I'm going to publish this book. I'm going to finally get one done, and maybe my message does matter, and maybe I don't want to wait till I get cancer, or you file a bankruptcy or something horrible. Why don't you just light a fire under your behind today and make it a priority? And then instead of thinking, that's it, I'm going to go do it, I'm going to start journaling. Well, you know what? I did that for 20 years. And that was like being in my backyard, nailing 2x4s together, thinking I'm working on my dream house. I might be building a doghouse. I might be building a birdhouse. If I'm really cool, because I've got my 10-year-old daughter, I could build a fort in the tree, but it's not going to be my dream house. So don't get deluded. That's a bit of a message there with also where I came from, but because I failed so much, brother, I don't want people to do the same thing.
So what actually changed to get you from where you were then to where you are now? How do you get over all of those frustrations, and how do you get 10 books being bestsellers?
Well, so it started with getting help and understanding the process. So, that was basically the beginning, was just deciding, when you decide, and that's not necessarily people are going to be like, yeah, man, I get it. You decide to do it and you do it. Well, most of the world is obese. Maybe that's not accurate. Most of Western society is obese, right? Because it's not because of a lack of knowing what to do. Typically we need to eat less and move more. Big, complicated formula. But when it came down to it, number one is getting help from a mentor who has experience getting the results and recognizing you don't have to do it yourself. Then it's just committing to it and doing it. So one of the first things I suggest people do, and here's a way that can hang everybody in a good way, is if you want to get a book done, declare to the world that you're going to get a book done. There's nothing like that builds the power of pressure, because people are going to say, oh my gosh, you're publishing a book. And it's a phenomenal first part of marketing. The posters that I have behind me on my wall here, the center one is about how you turn your book into your most powerful marketing tool for your business and your brand and whatever it is that's most important to you. And the first step that's on the bottom of that, and there's a pencil with fire on it if you can't see that, and it's like launching, like it's a launch thing. In order to turn your book into your most powerful marketing tool, and in order to get past the thing that said, how did I publish 10 books, or my daughter published the books, I had to decide I was going to do it, number one, and then I had to make the declaration. Because when I told other people, and I would challenge everybody to post something on Facebook or Twitter or social media, something to call your mom and tell her, I'm publishing a book. But draw a line in the sand. Commit yourself to other people, because they'll celebrate you, and then they'll also doubt you. They'll poke you. It's dangerous. You're going to go, oh my gosh, but I don't know what my book is. I don't have clarity around it. I get it. But jump first. Figure out the fly on the way down. Get started, because that pressure builds up, and then you want to give yourself no other option. When my buddy was going through cancer, he had no other option. It was either, take the time when he had focus and speak it into his phone or not. And that was his choice. And everybody has that choice every day. You can choose what you put into your body. You can choose what you put into your mind, and you're going to choose how you spend your time. And so it starts with that, and that's so simplistic that I'm sure you want more detail. But that is truly the truth on how to do it.
I love that idea because a lot of people, especially people who have this great big idea inside them, quite often those are the people who never manage to get that idea out into the world because they're afraid it's not going to be perfect, or they're afraid that someone's going to judge it harshly, and they just keep holding it back until, and they just keep saying, I'll release it when it's ready. It's not ready yet. And if you say to the world, well, watch out for September 10th because my book's coming, then people are going to say, okay, where is it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I have a question, though, about, it's going to sound quite blunt, but why should people publish a book? And the reason I say that is there's a lot of research out there nowadays that being an author is not necessarily going to provide you enough money to live the life that you want. For every J.K. Rowling and James Patterson, there's 10,000 authors who barely made the cost of their book back, let alone make a return on investment. So what's the point in it?
Okay, so my first advice to everyone, and this is contrary, this is tough for creatives because I will sometimes tell you to stop writing your book. So this is not necessarily what you thought I might have said, but you've got to stop because there are certain activities that you can take part in that might be pleasurable, but they're not making babies. You know what I'm talking about, right? You might like it a lot. There might be these little website channels you go on and you get interested in, but that doesn't make babies. You can spend your time on it. They say if you spend so much time on it, you can go blind. But if you want to make babies, then there are certain things that need to happen. So you need the right formula. You need the right chemistry, let's say. So the first thing to do is to get clarity. So what I recommend is that once you get clarity around what your book is about, who it's for, and all of that, you can get a great book done. Now, the question was, why get a book done? So let me just give everybody a challenge right now. Imagine the most money you've ever made. And we've actually, if you're write it down. What's the most money you've ever made in a given year? Maybe it's this year. We're 6 months in about to this year, and write down how much money you've made. And then put a 0 on the back of it. Because that's how much money my wife and I made the first year that we published our books. But that was not money from book sales. That was money from the business behind the book. Even my daughter, who wrote her first book when she was 7, that's this book. It's about the 3 ninja kitties. And if you guys want to get my daughter's, she did all the artwork for this book. If you want to look at my daughter's book, I'll send you a free copy. If you guys reach out to me, just send me an email or something. I'll send you a free copy of my daughter's amazing 3 Ninja Kitty book. Even her books have a business behind it. So when I said stop writing your book, what I mean, and like why write a book, I'm saying that there's reasons for your legacy. I told the story of the cancer, right? I told the story of my challenges. I said that I believe your message matters. My daughter's message matters. She inspires people and lights people up. I gave you a monetary reason, or convert that to the mission of the people that you can help and the value, since that's what the show is about, the value that you can add to other people. There are all of these places that people can consume information, and your story, your unique special gifts in this world, whether it's a fictional story or about the 3 Ninja Kitties or marshmallows or money or whatever your thing is, the world needs to see it. There's millions and billions of people on this planet, and they're consuming information, and when they have problems, they're looking for solutions or they're looking for distractions, and they're not getting your stuff. Instead, they're watching America's Got Talent or Britain's Got Talent or whatever Walking Dead zombie thing. So you're robbing people of your greatness and your goodness and your gifts and your reason and purpose for being on this planet if you don't give people the way to find you. Now, that doesn't mean go write a book. It means deciding you're going to get that book done. And then what I had to figure out was how to get a book done that people wanted to read. That's the key. Because I said get clarity first. If you get clarity first, and this is how somebody can get a book done really fast. I'll talk to you about that in a second if you want to know how you do that book in 90 days or less and make it a bestseller and make sure you've got quality content there in there that people want. But you can do it faster than you would ever believe if you just paused and got clear and clarity first. And so I kind of answered two questions at once, which is getting clarity to begin with understanding the whole path of the book is the beginning, it's not the end, and it's the beginning of you adding value instead of it being the end. Making a lot of money as an author, the worst way you can make money is by selling your book as an author. The best way is to have something behind it. My daughter teaches a course teaching kids how to write books. That's the business behind her book. And now we've got Ninja Kitty things and t-shirts and different stuff as well. But the book is the beginning. It's the first way that you add value. So if you care about other people, you should write a book.
I'm so glad you mentioned this word value, because it's what I keep coming back to when it comes to talking about innovation. Most people confuse innovation with just creating something new and then not understanding why it falls flat on its face when they release it to the world. But innovation only really works when you're producing something new that other people see value in fact, enough value in that they then want to go and buy more from you. So is this sort of related to how you think about how to figure out the value aspect of the book? How do you figure out what people are interested in?
Okay, so I think there's a formula that's in a pretty good book. Most people have heard of it. It's called the Bible. And you might have even heard this phrase before. It's ask and you will receive. That's the formula. Now, you might have read, what was that book and movie, The Secret, right? So that's like, oh, The Secret. Well, you know, and we talked about off air before we started this interview how many people will go create something, put their head down, turn on the blinders, try to make it perfect and wonderful and beautiful and amazing, thinking of that if you build it, they will come. And I was teasing before, and I say this a lot, that you're not Kevin Costner and you don't live in the field of dreams, and your ideal audience or reader is not Shoeless Joe Jackson, I think was the name of the guy in the movie and whatnot. So that's the wrong way to do it. That's saying, I'm going to write a great book and I want to be like J.K. Rowling and all these amazing people. Well, that's, you know what? People win the lottery all the time, and it happens. And you can do it too. You know, go for it. Good luck. But if you want to write an amazing book, then you can do it by talking to people, by starting off with that first phase of phenomenal marketing and engaging with people. And I just took a master class from James Patterson about this, and he said when you have a great book, idea about a book, he's like, find your audience. And he said, by the way, he finds that women are a better audience and buy more books and more engaging and whatnot, just as an aside. But he's like, so to create a story that's for women, but you can do that for men, boys, dogs, whatever. I don't know that dogs read a lot of books, but you could do it about any subject. But he said you talk to them. You look them in the eyes and you tell them about your book and you see whether or not it lands. And so this entire book writing process, one of the ways that I leverage the writing of a book and the creation of a book into adding massive value and growing your business all at the same time and being a phenomenal and your most powerful marketing tool is by talking to other humans, asking and engaging them in conversation. It does not mean that you broadcast on Twitter and that you don't listen back. This is an engagement. You ask and receive, and then you go ask again, and then you test, and you build a book launch team and community that are excited for what's coming, and you're vetting it. Like I have a book, one of my clients just created a book launch team. She got 700 people on her book launch team in 2 weeks. When she pre-launched her book, the book is not done. She has a cover, and that's it, and a description of the book. She became a #1 international best-selling author in less than 24 hours. She had a whole bunch of people engage and sign up for the bonuses and then show up on her webinar that she had as a gift to follow up with that. She had 35% of the people that followed up on the webinar buy her first level program. And I think it's $150. So now, the question is about how can you do this, and the answer, to make sure that you know you're giving phenomenal value, talk to people the entire process. Did somebody say they didn't like her content? One person said, I think this is bunk. Everybody else said, I loved it. Now that's scary for those of us. Like, oh my God, somebody said they don't like it. But you know what? That's good. That's a good thing. Is it scary and risky and you put yourself out, your neck out there? Maybe, but maybe, not everybody buys at McDonald's. Some of us do and some of us don't, and that's okay. Some people love it and some people hate it. If you get somebody to say that they're not interested and they don't like it, that's just a blip on the radar. That's something good to consider, and it might be, just might be, someone you don't want to be working with or cater to anyway. So go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. Find an audience that you can engage with, interact with, and then you're guaranteed to create something phenomenal because they'll tell you they like it or they don't.
Perfect. Trevor, it's been wonderful speaking with you. I'm sure we could keep going for hours and hours and hours, but I think the best way that people can find out more about how to use these strategies and actually get their book done is probably by going to your website. Isn't that right?
Well, there's a whole bunch of stuff. So go to, look up my name and you can get any of my books, but you can also go to my website, trevorcrane.com. And I'm going to give your audience also 2 copies of my book for free. One of them is called Big Money with Your Book Without Selling a Single Copy. And it's about the mission behind it. And I interview a variety of people it's a phenomenal book. I've had nothing but positive feedback from it. And the other one is How to Write the Right Book Fast. And I'll give those both to your audience if they just go to trevorcrane.biz. And they can pick it up, and I give a couple other cool free gifts, and then we'll get to act and interact and engage. And if there's any way I can support you, I am here. So just let me know if there's something I can do to support you. It's my mission to help people get their message out to the world and to start using one of the most powerful forms of marketing that you can have, and that's a book.
Perfect. Trevor, it's been wonderful speaking with you, and I look forward to speaking again with you soon.
You too. Thanks.
Today's episode was made possible by members of our premium Deep Creativity Training Program. For less than the price of half a candy bar per day, you too can get world-exclusive daily exercises which push your creativity past its comfort barrier to make you better able to generate ideas in all aspects of your life and work. Invest in yourself now by going to www.ideatovalue.com/deepcreativity and using coupon code PODCAST for 25% off your first order. And don't forget that if you found this episode interesting, to like and share it, and to leave us a review in your favorite podcast player. See you again in the next episode.